doing great. Thanks for having me.
Good.
Well, welcome
and I apologize
to St. Louis.
for the crazy morning.
No, don't worry about it. We're doing construction work around here, and that causes problems for people trying to figure out what's going on here. You are the first Democrat to hold the state treasurer's office in 15 years, which shocked both Debbie and me. That we just kind of assumed everybody was a Democrat when it came to higher office in the state up there. Not the case, though, is it?
No, when I came in office, we had a 12-year incumbent, and I'm very proud of what we've been able to do in the 3.5 years that I've been state treasurer. We've really made it the most proactive office in the country. We've added programs that allow people to stay in their homes, for people to start their first business. My big goal was to economic development in central and southern Illinois, making sure we had access to capital. We can get low-interest loans for small business owners. We started a financial literacy division where we teach kids important financial lessons. So we've really made it a proactive office. We fought to create jobs, and that's something I'm very proud of.
So the other side of the job, though, those are great positive things you can do. The state of Illinois, as we all know, is horribly broke, and you're, as state treasurer, this may sound crass, do you kind of specialize in floating checks? How does one do that as state treasurer in a state with no money?
And that's the challenge. I've only been there for 3.5 years, obviously, but the problem with the Illinois budget is that it's a fundamental systemic problem that's been going on for decades, unfortunately. A chronic underfunding of the state pension system, an inability to pay their bills, no courage to make tough decisions. And one of the things that I've done, because I want to run my office seriously, we've found ways to do more with less. We've streamlined services. We've cut our budget in the state treasurer's office. We've reduced our workforce by 17%, things that I'm very, very proud of. And every single month that I've been in office, the portfolio has outperformed our benchmark. So while the state treasurer doesn't have a vote in the legislature on budget issues, I have absolutely used my voice to try and scream from the rooftops to let people know of the enormous long-term challenges if we don't get our handle on this.
You've got a Green Party candidate and a Republican running against you. Let's just assume for a second that you win in November. You're in D.C. You're a U.S. Senator. The pressure is going to be on you from the people back home to bring the money to the state. And yet at the same time, there's an uprising in this country now saying, wait a minute, Congress just can't keep writing these checks and giving money away to states. How do you respond to that?
Well, I think we need to be smarter. We obviously have some enormous long-term deficits, some exploding debt because of poor decisions in Washington, D.C., which is, again, why this race is so incredibly important. My opponent's been in Washington, D.C. for 20 years. So if you love Washington, D.C., then Congressman Mark Kirk is your guy. To answer your question, I think we just need to be more efficient. For example, one of my proposals is to create a national infrastructure fund, a $45 billion fund, because we have to invest in infrastructure right now. But instead of having congressmen and politicians building bridges to nowhere and a 50-mile road from their house to the highway, my proposal was to get the best and the brightest geologists, urban planners, transportation experts, economists, create a $45 billion fund for every large-scale project in the country, let them grade them, let this expert panel grade them, decide where the money should go, where the biggest projects should go, and that would be deficit neutral. We would take that $45 billion by ending tax breaks for companies that ship jobs overseas. We can't continue to ship jobs overseas every day. That's what I will fight for in the U.S. Senate.
We, as you probably know, a huge chunk of our listening audience is in the Metro East, and things are a little different in Southern Illinois than they are in the Chicago. It's almost, I grew up in Chicago, so I can say that Chicago is sort of like its own little part of the world, and then there's the rest of Illinois. How do you avoid being seen as part of that Chicago Democratic machine? We have the whole Governor Blagojevich thing, that whole trial over, and the whole trial about this Senate seat that you're running for. What would you say to people here in Southern Illinois about how you are different from that?
Well, the folks in Southern Illinois know me because when I ran the first time, when I ran as state treasurer, I actually ran against the machine. I ran against the Democratic Party. I ran as an outsider. I was endorsed by essentially no one except for our now president. I ran against the party, their slated candidate. We were able to win. We talked about fresh leadership, and since I've been the state treasurer, we've worked well with everyone, Democrats, Republicans. We've spent a lot of time downstate. We opened the first ever downstate office, satellite office of the state treasurer's office in Mount Vernon, Illinois. We've spent a lot of time focusing on economic development, financial literacy, our Smart Women, Smart Money programs. The bigger problem to me when we talk about the U.S. Senate is the ability of special interests and federal lobbyists to decide what takes place, every piece of legislation. I was very proud, guys, to be the first candidate in the history of the state of Illinois to run for the U.S. Senate, not to take money from federal lobbyists and corporate PACs. The first ever. My opponent has taken $1.5 million from Wall Street interests alone, votes for the bailouts of the biggest banks in the world, and then votes against Wall Street reform. The Wall Street Journal called him a couple weeks ago a pig at the trough, one of the largest, these aren't my words, this is the Wall Street Journal, one of the largest, single largest special interest fundraisers in the history of Congress. So to say that he's been there for 20 years, he's one of the largest special interest fundraisers, and he should go to Washington, D.C. because he cares about Illinois, I don't think he deserves a promotion. I think we need some fresh leadership, someone who's going to work with both parties, because this bipartisan tone in Washington, D.C., I think is having a grave impact on everybody.
That is Alexi Giannoulias. He is the state treasurer in Illinois, and he would like to be the next senator from that state. Thank you for coming and joining us today.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right. Thanks very much.
Time for us to get you off to